Ready? Okay, hello guys. My name is Lisa. Thank you all for being here still this late in the evening. We have a very interesting discussion, and I hope I don't keep you too long. I know you're all probably ready to mingle and for drinks. So today we are going to talk about investing and collecting NFTs with an amazing panel of speakers. We have Kathleen from Object.com. She's a curator, and she will introduce herself in a while. We have Colborn, and he's founder of the Museum Crypto of Art, and he's also a very large collector. And we have Alex from Solidity.io, and Alex is also an investor. So we are going to chat all things collecting and investing with NFTs, and I'm very excited. So if you want to introduce yourself, Kathleen, properly to the gang, and we can take from there.
Yes, hello. Does my mic work? Yeah, so I'm Ombeline, but I'm known as Kathleen on Twitter. And I'm a collector. I mostly collected NFTs on Tezos, on Nicketnook first, and after that on Object.com. And now I'm currently working as the curator for Object.com.
That's great, and I think we're having are we having mic issues, Colborn? Yeah, no?
Check.
Okay.
Check.
Colborn, if you want to introduce yourself to the crowd, I'm sure some of them know you already.
Yeah, Colborn Bell, founder of Museum of Crypto Art, collector, builds art installations in the metaverse.
Amazing. And Alex, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I own Solidity.io and Solidity.com, and we're a blockchain development firm and DeFi incubator. So we incubate projects, invest in projects, build in the space.
Amazing.
A lot of different stuff.
I mean, and I'll just quickly introduce myself. I forgot. I'm a little bit nervy and a little bit wired from all the coffee, but my name is Lisa Gibbons. I'm a writer and a journalist in the space. I write for Grit Daily, US publication, and also Crypto Slate and Block Leaders. So yeah, hopefully I'll be writing about a few of the projects in the room, and we'll get some good feedback. So my first question for the panel today, and I'll address it to Kathleen because I know that her family, her uncle was into sculpture and stuff. Were you into collecting art before you got into the world of NFTs?
Yeah, so I was already collecting physical pieces. So there was a member of my family who was an art expert. He introduced me to auction houses quite early, so I was buying some antiques, and then I started buying mostly paintings and sculptures, so physical pieces. And then when I noticed NFTs, I started collecting NFTs, and I discovered a lot of advantages. For instance, the storage space, because I could have only a very limited amount of physical art at my place, and for the NFTs, I could collect a lot. And I discovered this amazing artistic community on Tezos 1 year ago, and I haven't stopped.
So one year ago, Kathleen became addicted to collecting NFTs. And I think, Colborn, you were saying something similar, like you have the largest collection on Super Rare, is it?
By number of pieces.
By number of pieces. So you're obviously an addict as well, we call it that.
Recovering.
A recovering addict. Okay. And what about you, Alex? Are you collecting as well as investing?
More investing than collecting, probably, I would say. Like, I'm more focused on finding projects that are like generating ROI or doing something interesting from a utility standpoint that I think is unique. I wasn't really into art prior to NFTs. I appreciate like the art component of certain NFTs for sure, but I definitely think I look at it from more of like a economic lens, I guess,
and that's
like a technology.
Sorry, but
of course.
That is where it gets really interesting, is when you consider, I was speaking to Project Unique Network, and they're building on the Polkadot ecosystem, and they are building advanced features for NFTs. So it's like taking the NFT utility and transforming it into something that it could be in the future. And I think that's where the investment side of NFTs and collections gets quite interesting. Do you see, and this is a question for everyone on the panel, do you see that people going towards NFT collections that may have additional value in the future? Do you see that more and more now?
Yeah, I think that the money is definitely like a primary or the sort of like economic upside, right, is definitely a primary motivator, and it's bringing a lot of people into NFTs. And then through NFTs, people are discovering, I think, like more traditional forms of art, right? So like as these museums and as these traditional sort of like artistic institutions begin to integrate NFTs more and more, it bridges the gap, I think. So I think that's like definitely, I think it's attracting people, right, to NFTs, I think, from like an economic standpoint, and then from NFTs there to like more traditional art as well.
I'll take the flip side of that. I'll say all the money, all the speculation ruined the fun. It ruined the atmosphere. It ruined the art. Thank you. And what was kind of a free-moving group of artists, people looking to break out of boxes, people looking to redefine labels, suddenly found themselves having to fit into a hyper-commodified and capitalistic structure.
Interesting.
I think the thing though with that, right, is like you're attracting so many more users, right, by having the economic incentive, I think, and you're bringing so many people to this world that's like traditionally this walled-off garden, right, where you have like the hyper wealthy and the hyper successful are all just really like they're collecting the art and they're using it for tax write-offs and they're really invested in the space, and it's sort of this like walled-off garden where now NFTs have created an opportunity, right, for everybody to kind of invest in, and it's not really art in the traditional sense, right? You're investing in IP, you're investing in ecosystems, you're investing in technology, and I think like there's a difference between NFTs as representative of whether it's like IP or representative of sort of like a component in a technological ecosystem than traditional sort of like fine art as well, right? So I think that's like the flip side as well.
I'm going to ask the audience a question because I think it'll give us a read of the room, right? Because I've done both of these things. Who in the room has collected an NFT? So minted an NFT from a collection? Everyone. And who in the room has created an NFT? A lot. So I think the accessibility of NFTs in terms of creation and collecting is fascinating. You know, we all want to be part of this giant ecosystem. I'd be interested in hearing Cabeline's take on this because you're curating. So you're actually finding the artists, and how do we do that? How do we discover new artists to collect?
It's quite a treasure hunt. It's quite funny. It takes some time. At the moment, it's mostly on Twitter that I discover art. I follow a lot of artists on Twitter. I use TweetDeck. I make some Twitter lists and then I use TweetDeck to manage this list and find new artists. And of course there is Instagram, but it's less used for NFTs. So I can use Instagram to look for artists who might do NFTs and then try to look for their Twitter and see if they have an account on a particular website. And then I'm using, for our platform, there is the live feed that you can use, and you can look at the latest pieces which were minted, which are also a way to look at it, at the auctions which are ending soon. So there are many places where you can look at. And it's actually very exciting because I see a lot of new artists entering the space, and I found that it's giving them more exposure than before. Some artists located in some places which were not exhibiting their art in galleries already. I find them more easily thanks to the NFTs. So yes, for me that's quite exciting to do that.
Yeah, and it's the same question for you, Colborn. How do you discover your art that you want to collect?
How do I discover the art that I want to collect? I don't trust Twitter to be an appropriate algorithm to feed me the images that I want to find, right? So the place where I go is within the Museum of Crypto Art. We have a community collection. Anybody can upload up to 100 pieces of their work or what they've collected. And for me, kind of sorting through that pile to find new artists, to discover just pieces that are visually striking without the market component is where I start.
Okay, interesting. And from an investor point of view, but also I know you have you're part of the Ape Club, so you probably get a few recommendations from there, Alex. But where would you find new collections or new projects that you want to invest in terms of NFTs?
Yeah, I think I have like a very like close circle of friends and people that I trust that I think are relatively, you know, well connected and like understand the space, and so I kind of keep it in sort of like internal group chats, and so we kind of talk, say, hey, I've seen this, or hey, I know this founder that's, you know, involved with this, or this person is advising on this project, and this could be really interesting, and so that I kind of get it just through my network of people I trust, and so that's, you know, there are winners and there are losers, and that's, yeah, strictly more from like an investment standpoint, which can be, you know, it's a lot less curated. It's more focused on, you know, sort of just, you know, it could be momentum based, right? We see this opportunity because there might be this, you know, something happening soon, right? Like for instance, with apes, with ApeCoin, right? You have ApeCoin drop, and you have these different projects now offering like incentives and offering reward systems, right? So that kind of tracking like, okay, who's doing what? How could they be building out reward systems for their users, right? Maybe like from an investment standpoint, maybe like you try to time some of those things, which can be also like there's upsides and downsides to that too. So, you know, there's a few different angles that I think I take.
Well, yeah, and I was just thinking about an article that I wrote recently for CryptoSlate. It was about alien worlds, and they built a bridge into Minecraft. So I think that's like massive. 1.7 million or something Alien Worlds has, and 7 million users, gamers that Minecraft has. So they're kind of merging those two communities to increase the utility of their NFTs and increase the longevity of the game. Do you think that community, what I'm trying to get at is, do you think community plays a big factor? And obviously for Alex, you're saying you get recommendations for your community. But for you, Kathleen, and for you, Colborn, does your community, your circle around you, do they play a huge factor in who you collect, the types of NFTs you collect?
Yes, we exchange some recommendations. We have been doing that since the beginning. It's mostly with private Discords or Twitter group chats. And but for my curation, it's a bit different because I want to promote artists who are not in my circle. So that's why I am spending a bit more time and not just relying on the recommendations of my group, but just to collect already looking at what people recommend me would already be enough. It's people are very active,
and Tezos is a huge community. Every time I speak to anyone these days, they're like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, go to Tezos because you know it's easy to mint." Or a lot of artists tend to drift towards Tezos, don't they? I think that's what I'm getting from fine art, from the fine art world.
There are many factors. The artistic community has always been there since the beginning, and for the artists, the gas fees are very low. It's also ecological, so there are many advantages to it. For me, the community was really important. So both for the artists and the collectors. As a collector, I could speak with artists even if I collected just a multiple edition. I could still speak with the artist and have that direct contact. And I found that it was really present on Tezos. They are active, they are there every day, speaking with their collectors, creating collectors groups.
And that's the beauty of crypto and NFTs in general, is that you can really connect with either it is the creator or the founder of a project that's, you know, in the world of Web 2 would be unattainable or unreachable because they're above you or above your station. Whereas in crypto, it's really open, and that access that you have to people, that should be really cared for and minded within the world of Web3, and mindful that we don't go back to the way things were in terms of hierarchy. Do you find that as well, Colborn, that you want to access the artists and talk to the artists?
The people are the lifeblood. The art itself, we're like very post-form, post-aesthetic. It is how that person is communicating their set of values through whatever mean, and the NFT as the symbol to encompass all of their philosophy, the way they challenge and break things, the way they represent crypto as a philosophy, the self-sovereignty that they assume, and the way that they're using the NFT as a new and novel medium to express all of those ideals.
Yeah.
And
really well said.
And I think from a funding standpoint, I think NFTs are so powerful for artists because you have this idea of like, you know, for years and years, right? This concept of like a starving artist, right? And these artists are creating like these like amazing works and creating such amazing stuff, and they haven't really had, you know, it's difficult, right? You kind of have this like really tiny, like you have this tiny percentile of people who achieve at a really high level, and then everybody else is kind of, you know, stuck. And you know, a lot of people, their artworks don't even get discovered. So now you have like through social media, you can kind of cultivate these communities organically. You can raise, I mean, millions of dollars, right, just off of like building a Twitter or Discord presence. We've seen it happen hundreds of times at this point. And these artists come out of the woodwork, you know, basically they come from nobody knows them, nobody knows their art, to now everybody loves them, they adore them, they think what they're building is so amazing. So I think that's also the funding aspect, I think, for artists is just really, really cool to see, you know, those mechanisms in place.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because from a few artists that I've met, in the traditional artists that are trying to bridge into the world of crypto art, they're not doing it as effectively as you might have thought. You know, it's like crypto art and NFT art is so different that it kind of comes first. Would you have similar mindset in terms of? Would I be wrong in saying that it's hard for traditional artists to get in to the space?
Like most things in crypto, it's time in the space. It's time in the space, the connections that's made. It's decentralized, so it's multimodal. And the way that person has utilized those connections to facilitate a greater network effect, like crypto, only makes that network stronger.
Yeah, I agree. I spoke with one artist, Matthew Hindley, and he's quite famous in South Africa. And he just minted an NFT collection, and it's, you know, nothing's happened yet, because he needs to massage the community or build his own community in the space, I think, first, you know. And the same with an education for the space, I think, as well. Another artist, Jim Fitzpatrick, he done the Che Guevara poster, so it's pretty hot, huge in the traditional world, you know. But he's fearful of NFTs. Have you ever found any artists that you want to bring into the world of NFTs, or have massaged into the world of NFTs as collectors, or is it they're already there?
So if you bought some artists to NFTs, yes, many times. But it's true that at first it's very hard to explain how things work, and to explain to an artist who already has a lot of followers on Instagram, who already manages to sell their art well in the traditional art world, that it's not necessarily going to work from the beginning, and that they need to go community for the NFTs. So, but it's quite exciting to see them then staying and selling the first NFTs, especially when it's artists that when you really appreciate their art. So it's great, and I'm seeing more demands, more artists asking to getting interested in NFTs this past month.
And the same question for you, Colborn.
I'll just say that like 99 out of 100 times that you bring an artist into the space right now, they're gonna have a bad time. Right? There's less money, there's too much noise, like they're going to feel insecure because their piece is not selling. Tezos seems to be a safer, low risk community to begin to experiment with the medium. But people are paying hundreds of dollars to mint, being promised by media that there's all this money, that their art is going to be picked up, that they're going to have a career in art. It's just not true. So I don't bring anybody in anymore. I think the thing, especially on the art side, needs to die. There needs to be 2 years of education. It needs to be reborn again. For me, it's just very analogous to what happened in 2017 with the ICO bubble.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, could the utility and the increase in utility or the change of utility for the NFT, could that revive it, or for you?
Look, it's here to stay. There is
Yeah.
a fundamental shift in consumer preferences and taste, the way a younger generation is experiencing the world, the social interactions that they're having. They are digital based. They will want digital experiences. There will be kids today, as they grow older, that will be interested in art. But it's world building, it's storytelling, it's not museums, it's not white wall galleries, it's something more familiar with what they've grown up within.
Yeah, and I was telling someone earlier, a friend of mine, Gillian, that my brother has been playing Minecraft since he was 10. You know, they've grown up in this space, they know it better than anyone, you know, and they'll tell us what they want. And I do feel like gaming could be like I said earlier at Alien Worlds, I do feel like gaming is the next step towards adoption. Would we feel like NFTs today and NFTs and where they're going, would we feel like we need mass adoption to help? We need to educate more the public, the general public in, rather than, I know we're here and it's like amazing in Lisbon and we're all at an NFT conference, but most of the room here has either created or collected an NFT. Do we need more people who haven't?
I think we've been given the very smallest Lego block of the metaverse.
Okay.
Right? So we need hardware, we need lighter VR headsets. I think the ocular pathway is the quickest way to like induce empathy in humans and to foster connection from a distance. So we need to develop, like the hardware, the software for people to begin to experience and build worlds and begin to blend reality and kind of like push us up this exponential transhumanist narrative.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And Alex, would you feel the same? Would you feel we need to experiment more with hardware? And
I think that people think of NFTs in sort of a kind of like boxed in way, right? They see, okay, this is art, or this is like a PFP, or this is whatever. When I look at NFTs, I look at sort of more just like the holistic applications, right? And so I think that, bringing more users in, first of all, I think there's just a lot of friction in the process, right? If you want to own an NFT, you have to have a MetaMask wallet, you have to like purchase Ethereum from a centralized exchange, you have to transfer it out, then you have to go to wherever you want to purchase it from. I mean, this is if you're doing it in the traditional sense. Obviously, there are like fiat onboarding solutions, but it's not really a sort of true like Web3 solution, in my opinion. I think that's where it starts, and I think that companies are starting to adopt, using NFTs, whether it's like, for here, right, for ticketing, right, for like as a ticketing solution, or whether it's as, for coupons or rewards systems, or, maybe there are lots of different applications, and I think just onboarding users is probably the solution. And I think also traditional artists another reason like traditional artists may struggle, I think, is because their audiences are not even crypto onboarded, right? Like these traditional artists who are producing these works are, producing them typically for people who are of like an older generation, right? Who they might not even know how Bitcoin works or Ethereum. They might not own any of it, right? So when you take the leap of like, oh, download MetaMask and do this and do that and go mint this asset, and now I want to do an airdrop of this, and you have to go free claim it through this portal. They're just, they've got their hands up because they have no idea what's going on. And so I think that's another reason that these traditional artists might feel a little bit of friction breaking through, because they might be looking to, I have this huge audience of people that love my work, but they actually have no idea how to purchase it or interact with it. So that's the other thing as well.
The problem for me is that if Meta wins, if Epic Games wins, if these are closed sandbox environment, people do not care about ownership, tradability, then it's like NFT value zero, right? If we are like not supporting open metaverses, if we are not supporting interoperability across worlds, then what is the value? What is the utility? It does not matter, because you have 99% of people on a platform that is just like cold, sterile, that they control, and you are the product producing the data.
Yeah, it's centralized, right? And that's one of the really cool things about NFTs, and this is just like true of crypto generally, and Michael Saylor talks about this a lot with Bitcoin. He talks about how do you move wealth through through time, right? Because if you hold wealth in like fiat currency over like 100 years, you'll basically be taxed by inflation essentially like 99+%. If you own property, right, then you're going to get taxed every single year, those property taxes, and also the government also has the capability to seize that property at any point if they become whatever, fascistic or whatever, and they decide to just take whatever you have. And this has happened with art too over history, right? Governments and sort of like whatever, right? Monarchies have seized artworks, and artworks have gotten destroyed, like Library of Alexandria, right? The amount of like art and history and knowledge that's there, right? Like there's the amount of artwork that is destroyed or lost, like if you look back over thousands of years, is huge. And so having the ability to move those assets through time and have custody over those assets in a real way so that you own it, right? And it's not, like you said, it's not Meta owning it through a custodial wallet, or it's not whatever, Epic Games owning it, or it's not whoever owning it. You actually own your private keys, and you have sovereign control of your assets, right? That is what matters, I think. And then getting more people on board into thinking, okay, how can I focus on privacy? How can I focus on sovereignty as an individual and actually owning my assets and taking that responsibility on, because it's a responsibility. And people, a lot of people would rather say, oh, like I'll let the bank deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. But then when the time comes when the bank fails and they can't withdraw their money, right, or whatever an issue arises, they're screwed. And so I think moving more towards decentralization, like you said, I think is 100% the answer. I think as much existing on chain as possible is 100% the answer. And you don't, have these big companies. I think Gemini has talked about trying to like move into the metaverse with like a decentralized solution. I know there are plenty of like decentralized solutions that people are focused on, and I hope that those are the winners and those are the ones that I'm pushing for. So that's how I feel for sure.
And I'd feel the same. I'm a big supporter of the Polkadot ecosystem. I'm not pushing any tokens, but I'm a big supporter of the Polkadot ecosystem because I think that they hold that value quite close to them. But what do you think about the world of decentralized art? Do you have thoughts on that, Kathleen?
I'm not sure what I can say about it.
That's okay. That's okay. We can move on. So what I really want to understand as well is, can you give us an idea, or just a bit of fun for everyone here, the type of art that you like? So I know that Alex has a mutant ape, which I'm quite jealous of. But is there a certain type of art that you like to collect a lot of, or a certain aesthetic that appeals to you more than others?
I like to discover new kinds of art, so it actually depends on the day or the week. So I collected a lot of generative art this summer, and then some glitch art, because this was not art I used to collect, and I was fascinated by it. And so it really depends, and I have a very eclectic collection with many different art styles. There is not a particular aesthetic, but I like to see a work which is new or beautiful. So, and there is a lot of choice.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same. I collect it I'm an amateur collector, but I collect everything. It's colors and flowers and beauty and that types of stuff. And if I want to support something now, I collect it. Like I collect a lot of Ukrainian art and just because I want to support and stuff. What's going on? And what about you, Colborn? Is there a certain type of art, gen art, or?
Not particularly. I just look to the fringe. I look to the weirdest thing and try and bring it to the middle, and just try and say that now this is acceptable. This is within the canon, and it all fits within crypto art, because crypto art is massive and it's not small, right? I think traditional art tells you art is small, it's for few. I think crypto art is for many. I think creativity should be welcomed. I think something that I can't get out of my head is this artist Die with the Most Likes, which is just hyper post capitalist, crudely sketched, bright vivid colors, but it's people in VR glasses bleeding from the eyes, or sucking from ground beef. It's just gross and extreme, and I think it just really pushes my thinking along of where we're going in a critical way that I find engaging.
So it kind of reflects your values. The art that you're choosing kind of says something about your personality.
Or crypto in general.
General.
I like crypto art.
Okay, yeah, solid crypto art. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I think like I said, I think my approach is not, I'm not as like focused on the artistic side. I definitely like appreciate it, and I think that it's awesome. I'm more focused on finding communities that I think are building like valuable ecosystems, developing IP, and trying to sort of like cultivate that into more. And so that's what I kind of focus on. I think like Bored Apes do a great job. I think Cool Cats do a great job. I think like Dead Fellas I'm a huge fan of. I think that a couple of these different brands have done a really good job with sort of focusing on developing IP, developing an ecosystem, rewarding their users first, rewarding the community, and I think that that's sort of what I look for.
And I have a particular question for you, actually, Alex, because Solidity.io, they invest and incubate some projects. So how do you find an art, like let's say it was my art, how do you find an art that's worth incubating, that's worth hand-holding and building out their community with them? So that's kind of what you offer.
Yeah, I think my approach to the incubator is like much more focused on the technology components. So if they're building some sort of technology that I find really valuable or interesting, or I think they're trying to do something different, that's sort of what I look for. It's not quite as focused on the artistic side, I would say. But yeah, really just focus on, we want to build something really unique from a technological standpoint. We want to build something really interesting, and these are the things that we want to build, and this is why it's going to change this industry, right? And so trying to find those really, like those founders who are building stuff that I think will be really valuable, and then trying to say, okay, well, can we actually be useful? Can we help kind of grow this project in a way that is meaningful, and what's the upside here? And that's sort of the calculation.
That's great, and you're bringing your own community, so you can share their project with your community as well, which makes perfect sense. And Colborn, for you in particular, as the founder of Museum of Crypto Art, how do you choose who goes into, who is displayed in the museum? Because traditionally museums are, highbrow.
For me, that's super easy. Our first collection is the Genesis collection. It's one piece from one artist prior to December 2020. Which was the market moment. So it's really meant to just recognize every creator and artist that kind of kicked and created this thing into the stratosphere. We have a Mocha token where 50% of the supply is reserved for permanent collection acquisitions. I generally anticipate donating the entirety of my collection to the museum over time. So it's really just one of those, like, I feel foundational institutions meant to hold the philosophy, hold the space, and show the breadth and depth of crypto art.
Amazing. Now I want to go to the museum. So how about you, Ombeline, in terms of actually I have a different question for you. When people are sharing their art, and I saw this I saw a Jenny Dow conversation online last week, and when the collectors on the conversation were saying, we love showing off the art that we collect, right? So the Museum of Crypto Art is a perfect place to do that. You can show off the art that you collect. And these artists had all built on cyber galleries, so which are beautiful, but they were walking us through their on cyber gallery and showing each piece as it is. And for Tezos, or for Object in particular, how do you decide who goes on the homepage? Because that's the gallery for Object, right?
And we also use cyber
as well.
Galleries as well, yes. So for the homepage, there are different sections, and but the artists who are featured at the top, and in the section which is called Hidden Gems, are artists that people didn't necessarily notice. And so I want to bring attention to them because it may be hard to discover them otherwise. And so at the moment it changes every day. It is different art styles and all the time. And so different kind of art. So it's going to the first section is one artist which is who is featured once a day. And then the second section is called Hidden Gems. It's 5 pieces per day. And but the objective is also the same, to highlight underrepresented artists or pieces from artists that people may know, but they may not have noticed it, maybe because it was they minted the same week as another popular drop, and the people just didn't see it. That's because I got a lot of feedback from collectors saying they had difficulties to look for new art.
Yeah, and that's a problem that we spoke about last week as well, discovering new art, discovering new artists in this space. It can get hard, you know, if you're as Colborn pointed out, the algorithms on Twitter, you know, they feed you what you're used to. So you're not going to see, you know, something completely foreign, you know, something that's different to your likes and dislikes. Kathleen makes a really good point in how she got into the space. You were showcasing 5 new artists a day on Twitter way before she got a job as a creator on because that's kind of why they gave you the job, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, so I was posting on Twitter regularly to just share art because I discovered Iketnunk, which was a marketplace on Tezos, and I discovered a lot of great art. And I thought, but why does nobody buy this piece, which is really good? And then I started sharing it regularly. And that's what allowed me to become integrated with the Tezos community and to meet other collectors and artists.
So if there's any artists out there that want to be newly featured, then you can reach out to Kathleen. And it's the same, I mean, it's the same for other artists that I've met that are doing quite well. If they have a new collection, they need the community to come along with that collection and support them, or else, you know, they're going to be forgotten or not discovered again. So, is there any questions from the audience? Anyone want to ask our panelists anything in particular? I suppose another question I had is my bugbear with crypto NFT world is there's always so many steps that you have to do to get in, you know, to either mint an NFT or to participate in the world of crypto art. Can we make it easier, or are we doing enough in terms of the user experience? Colborn?
It's like, I think artists have figured it out, right? Like,
right.
I think it's plenty easy for artists to figure it out. I think Manifold has made it exceptionally easy to mint and run your own marketplace. It's collector education.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's like long-term safety and security, and if they're going to be spending real dollars for assets that they want to keep and treasure, then it's basic blockchain security. Average traditional art collector, age 65, it doesn't really stack well.
Okay. And how about you, Alex? Do you think we're doing enough in terms of UX and user experience? Can we make it easier? Is there anything you...
Yeah, I think it will get easier over time, and I think fees will get lower over time, right? As Ethereum scales, I think things will naturally, like the friction will naturally reduce. But I think what he said is like absolutely on point, right? If you invest the time, there's a little bit of friction, but it's not rocket science. And if you practice sort of like traditional best practices for security, you don't even need to follow best practices. You just need to follow probably like good practices. Like even if you have a hardware wallet and you're not clicking links and you're not signing messages, even if you have a hot wallet and you're just not interacting with anything, you're not clicking links, you're not signing messages, and no one has access to your private keys, I mean, your risk of being exploited is like quite low. Obviously, having a hardware wallet is better. Having a multi-sig is even better. Having a multi-sig with like multiple hardware wallets is probably the best. But I think that like you can be. I think that it's just like education. People need to take the steps to learn, and I think that there's enough information out there now that if you want to learn, it's not rocket science. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if YouTube, That's that's where I was educated about how to, set up your wallets and stuff. There's a lot of resources out there. It's
almost all of the exploits that happen are users making mistakes, clicking links they shouldn't, signing messages they shouldn't. Almost all of it is just, oh, some guy sent me a link and I clicked this link and I connected my wallet to this thing and I signed a message and all my assets are gone all of a sudden. That's most of what goes wrong. And so there's a lot to be said just about like those like very basic security practices.
Yeah, I think security will be part of the future conversations. Every conversation we have will be about security going forward, considering what's happening and what happened last week with Axie Infinity and everything. So what, in terms of if there's an artist or a collection from each of you, I'll ask each of you this question, if there's an artist or a collection that we should look at after we finish this discussion today, is there one or two that stand out to you, Kablin, that we should?
There's so many. Just one?
Just one? Just one?
Have a look at Zancan, who is Zancan.
Zancan.
Z.
Okay, yeah, Zancan.
N-C-A-N. He's a French generative artist minting on Object and other platforms on Tezos.
Great.
And, it's really good.
So he's going up in value as we speak. Zancan, a French generative artist that we're all going to have a look at. How about you, Colborn? There's one. Can't be yourself.
Look, I mean, there's super tight artists in the audience. There's like Gordon, there's like Panther in the back, there's like Crypto Argentina, Internet Office. I don't see anybody else, but they're all great. Like, meet people here. The people here are going to be your friends, and then like make friends with the artist, and you will fall in love with their art. These people all make exceptional art, and they're here, so meet them and talk to them.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, how about you, Alex?
I'm going to probably follow their lead and listen to whatever they're saying, because I think they have like probably the more knowledge than I do. So I'm definitely going to check out their recommendations.
Great. And yeah, I suppose if there are people that want to follow up with our speakers after this, that's completely fine as well. Right, guys? Just to figure out what you're into. And is there any questions or answers? Questions from the audience? Yes, over here. Do we have a mic?
Just chuck it.
Sharing is caring.
Thank you very much. So earlier you were talking about the democratization of metaverse, and so that we have to stand against the huge multinationals. And my question was about, shouldn't we start from the democratization of social networks rather than starting from the metaverse? Yeah, thank you.
You want to take it?
Do you want to answer that, Colborn, since you kind of have a relationship now?
The democratization of social networks. I mean, what does it mean? Like, venture ate everything, right? Andreessen is like crawling down our backs in Web 3. They ate all of Web 2. Like, the people do not own anything. So many have tried. We cannot escape like the black hole, which is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So we need to yes, but is it possible? Like, prove me wrong, please. If it's going to be anybody, it's going to be the people here.
These networks have too much traction. They have too many users. Getting people to go over to your decentralized Instagram, like, good luck, basically, right? Like, are they going to leave Instagram? Are they going to leave Twitter? Are they going to leave these places? I don't think so. And so I think what you said, they have so much capital, they have so many resources. I mean, these companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. And we see it ourselves because we're trying to hire engineers constantly. And these companies will literally go out and they will hire every engineer that they can possibly find that has like an ounce of talent. And they'll just put them doing like bullshit work, really, seriously. Because they just want to hire these engineers because they want to take all of the human capital so no one else can do anything. That's what they want to do. They want to take all of it. And they have all the money, and they can just buy up all of the resources, and they can just employ those resources, and then what do? Right? And so I think decentralization is sort of the solution to that, because anybody can kind of build anything. You have all these communities. You can raise capital really easily by building a good product and by building a community, and I think that's the solution. So I think as we're moving into Web3, I think it's our chance. It's our chance for sovereignty. It's our chance for privacy. It's our chance for all these things. But I think currently, it's going to be really hard to uproot the sort of institutional frameworks that have been built in by these massive companies. So.
And we're using them right. I mean, we're using them. We're using Discord. We're using Twitter. We're using Instagram in the world of Web3 to build out our communities, to speak about NFTs and in collections. So it's hard. You kind of have this push-pull relationship at the moment. You know, it's maybe as the ecosystems expand, we can make it bigger. What do you think, Ombeline? Do we need to look at democratizing social networks? You use it. We use Twitter a lot.
Yeah, I'm using it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I use it every day, you know. And to be honest, it's a lot of where I find my stories, my news. You know, the news that I need to write. So it's hard. Even though we want to push away from it, I think it's going to be a hard battle. Anyone else have any questions from the audience? We have a few minutes left.
I think we're over time.
Oh, are we? Oh, we're over time. I'm sorry. Okay, let's all go to the bar. Let's convene at the bar, and we can continue our discussions. It was lovely to have you, and I thank you all for staying. And I want to really thank my panelists today. So if you give them a round of applause. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Let's go.
Thank you.